Greetings, sir. My name is Kemoneilwe Mukhari. My ST number is 10487625, and this is my video on the explanation for my app, which is the History Flashcards app. On my first screen, the XML page, I have a text view for the title and edit text for the description, and I also opened a new linear layout so that I would be able to display my two start and exit buttons next to each other. On my next XML screen, I have a text view that will display the questions and another linear layout for the two buttons that are displayed next to each other. Another text view which will display whether the user has guessed correctly or incorrectly, and lastly, a next button. My next screen, being the score screen, displays the score that the user achieved from the true or false quiz, with a text view being the title, another text view to display, and a review and exit button. My next screen is my review screen, and the Android text is red. However, I'm not sure why that is, but my app runs perfectly and has no errors. So yeah, it has about 10 text views, which just displays the questions and the answers if the user is interested in knowing. There is also a linear layout which I opened so that I could once again display my refresh and exit buttons next to each other. My first Kotlin screen is linked with my first XML screen, and over here I'm just declaring my interface elements as well as setting click listeners for my start button and my exit button. And as you can see, on my start button I have a val intent which just starts a new activity, which is my flashcard activity, and the finish affinity and exit process just lets the user leave the app. Next Kotlin activity, which is my flashcard activity, just displays the questions and whether the user has guessed correctly and incorrectly. And as you can see, I've declared my private late init variables so that I am able to declare non-null variables that will later be initialized but not at the time of the declaration. I've also used a companion object to create functions that I can call without actually making it an object, and I've listed the questions in an array right underneath it, as well as the answers in a Boolean array. Next, I declared my interface elements, being my question txt, my true and false buttons, as well as my next button and my feedback txt. Next, I set 3 click listeners for my true and false buttons and my next button. Underneath the click listener for the next button, we are basically saying that if there are any questions left, then this app should show the next question and clear any feedback text, and also enable the true and false buttons. Else, if there are no questions left, then we've entered a val intent so that we can move on to the next activity, being my score activity. Next, I've entered a private function for my print question, and it gets the current question and displays it on the screen using the question text view. I also created a private function called check answer, which looks up the correct answer from our current question index and checks if the user got it right, and if they did, it displays you guessed right, and it adds 1 to the score. If the user got it wrong, it displays you guessed incorrectly, and it also disables the true or false buttons so that the user isn't able to answer again. Next, on my score activity, I've just declared my user interface elements once again, being my score text view, my feedback text view, and my 2 review and exit buttons. In line 22, I have val score, which is equal to intent.getIntExtra. I am basically getting the score that was sent from the quiz screen using my intent, and it shows the score in my score txt. And in line 25, the code basically says that if the score is 3 or more, then it should display the text awesome job, otherwise it should display keep trying. Next, I've set a click listener for my review button so that when the user taps the review button, can go to the next screen, which would be my review activity. And I've also set another click listener for my exit button, which will allow the user to leave the app and close the app if the user presses the exit button. My next screen, being my review activity screen, I've basically declared my user interface elements once again, being my review text view as well as my refresh and exit buttons. Next, in lines 22 and 23, I've basically extracted my data from the previous activity, being the array of questions as well as the Boolean array of answers. Line 25 checks if both arrays are not null and have the same size. Then, for each question, adds the number and text and adds whether the answer was true or false. Otherwise, if the data is invalid or mismatched, it should show an error message which displays error while loading the review data. Next, I have set a click listener for my refresh button, which will take you back to the flashcard activity to restart the flashcard session. And lastly, I have added another click listener for my exit button, which once again allows the user to leave the app and enter the app if the user wishes to. That is the end of my code explanation, and now I'm going to run the app so that you can see how it works. Enjoy.